Hi. When I try to become present using one of the portals like following the breath, I very quickly fall below the level of thought. And I either fall asleep or I kind of fall into a dull calm that doesn't have any alertness. Do you have any suggestions?
Thank you. Thank you. That is the case with many people when you step out of thought. Let's say, here's the level of thinking, and then you have a vastness below thinking, so to speak, and a vastness above thinking. And when you step out and you rise above thinking, it can happen that suddenly you plunge back into thinking and then through thinking and end up below thinking. So this is the case with even many Buddhist monks who meditate. Many years ago, I occasionally visited Buddhist monasteries, and I saw the monks who meditate early in the morning, and they're at first, of course, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, so they sit very present, and then after 15, 20 minutes, you can see some of them. I probably wasn't meditating because I was watching them. And so some go. They never actually fall, but they have fallen below thinking. It's good to... Your practice then should be not so much practicing when you are sitting still, but to incorporate the practice of presence into activities rather than like this. And that can be done in many, many ways. You can make a conscious choice to use a certain activity and make them short at first. If it's too long, you won't keep it up probably. But you begin with short activities and use the activity as a vehicle for presence. So the activity becomes an excuse, one could almost say, for being present in the doing. And that means the doing is not primarily any longer a means to an end, it is an end in itself. And so that could be a simple thing like walking across the room from here to the door and being just present with every step. And it doesn't need to look funny, like walking on eggs, not like that. Just a normal walk, perhaps a little slower than usual, maybe, or maybe not even that. And you're present each step, you're present in each step. And that means in that space you can use an activity and regard it as a temporal space in which you're not thinking. You can go for a walk. You see a lamppost, well, not in LA because nobody walks, but if you're somewhere else, don't walk here, you get arrested. But if you walk, unless you're jogging, or you have a dog, that's okay. But if you're just walking, you're not jogging, and you don't have a dog. I did that with a friend in Santa Monica. We walked around some blocks and a police car followed us at night. You're walking and there's a lamppost some few yards away, and between here and this lamppost you practice presence. And that becomes a space of not thinking, just alert presence. And then you reach the lamppost. And then you're free to think again, or to look at the next lamppost and see if there's another space of not thinking. Beautiful practice. And before, if you'd gone for a walk, it might have been a purely physical thing. I want to exercise, I need to go for a walk. That's good, that's helpful, but your mind would have been somewhere else. which is the case for most people who are either walking or jogging. Their mind is somewhere else. And I often walk in the forest and occasionally meet people, and very few are actually present where they are. Some actually carry things in their ears, noise-making machines, as if the noise-making machine in their head wasn't enough. They carry a noise-making, an electronic device that puts noises into their ears. And so, or they're talking to a friend while they walk about their problems, with occasional brief glimpses of, oh, that's a beautiful tree. And then he said to me, then any activity that you start with something very simple, like wiping a table with a cloth, which you have to do occasionally, like dusting. And as you wipe the table, you're wiping your mind. Beautiful thing. Or I also recommend, I believe I said it somewhere in a book, waiting. Whenever you're waiting, you're standing in line somewhere, at a store, at the airport. Use that time, rather than to indulge in useless thinking, to be present. You can use your breathing, feeling the inner body, or being acutely aware of sense perceptions, without judgment, just looking around while you wait at the supermarket. Not complaining, just you look at the cashier doing her work or his work, or the other customers, looking around. Acutely aware of sense perceptions, like a little child. Hasn't been here for very long, so the little child looks like everything is new. You don't have to just, nobody will notice, you're just there. In fact, the most likely thing is, I call that practicing being invisible. I often practice that, but less successfully these days, unfortunately. Going into a public place in the state of presence, no thought, no judgment of anything or anybody, and then it is quite likely that nobody will look at you. In other words, you become semi-invisible. You attract no attention whatsoever. So I used in the earlier talk the example of being a valley as opposed to being a mountain. So if you go into a place not as a mountain, looking around, noticing people, thinking about, are they noticing me? That's a mountain, either, or being afraid of, feeling self-conscious. You're still a mountain, but you're feeling you don't want to be seen, but they're all looking at me. You're a mountain. So, but be there. Can you go into a public place, being a valley, which means no thought, just presence, simple, alert presence, no judgments, just, and then people don't see you. It's beautiful, and you become invisible. Now, to the ego, that's not necessarily pleasant, because the ego wants some recognition, at least recognize that I'm here. And if you can't say something good about me, say something bad, at least somebody acknowledges my existence. The ego wants to be acknowledged, but that a very powerful, extremely peaceful way of being there in a place is to be there as in an invisible entity. That reminds me of a time when I was with Kim in Miami Beach in a cafe, and perhaps we must have been quite present there because, and of course surrounded by people with wonderful bodies. It's quite, and we sat, and the waiter just did not see us. And And after a while, I said, let's just stay and see for how long we are in this. And there was no end to it. Didn't see us. Now, you might say, well, perhaps we look too puny in that place, but surrounded by people with beautiful bodies. But I believe it also has something to do with just being still. So that is a beautiful practice, public places, being still in public places, if you want to practice with that, and all kinds of activities that are short that you would do anyway. Cooking a meal may be a long thing. If I say be present while you, depends how long you're cooking, the cooking time is. If it's in 2 hours, then you might lose it. But you still could start with boiling an egg, which takes maybe 3 minutes, and see if you can be present as you put it in the pan, fill it with water, switch on, and watch it as it comes to the boil. Or anything to do with movement, any movement, even, I often give this example, probably because I have a glass of water next to me when I talk, picking something up and putting it somewhere else. Or, as I pick up this glass, now, this can be a presence practice, and this is then, when you couple it with movement, you're not going to fall below thinking, because if you fall below thinking, the glass will drop out of your hand, perhaps. While the glass travels from the table to the mouth, can you be present, so that it's not a means to an end, but just a movement? And then the glass travels back to the table, and while it travels back to the table, can you be just alert? No thought. So you use that movement to create a space of no thought. Just that. So this is a space of no thought here. This is the movement. And then, because it's so beautiful, you do it again. Oh. Oh. And then the thought comes and said, I can do it.